If you have ever driven abroad and found yourself on the wrong side of the road, you know the particular terror of that moment. The flash of oncoming headlights, the instinctive swerve, the realization that everything you know about driving is suddenly reversed. About 65% of the world's countries drive on the right side of the road. The remaining 35% drive on the left. These two groups are not distributed randomly. They cluster in ways that reveal something specific about the history of power, empire, and the decisions of a handful of individuals who never had to live with the consequences. The side of the road you drive on was not chosen by traffic engineers or safety researchers. It was not the result of any logical analysis of which side is better. It was decided by feudal custom, by Napoleon Bonaparte, by the British Empire, and by the particular way that one Swedish king chose to humiliate his own people on a single autumn morning in 1967. Before there were cars, there were roads, and before there were traffic rules, there were customs. In medieval Europe, the default was to travel on the left side of the road. The reason was practical and martial. Most people are right-handed. A right-handed traveler on horseback kept to the left, so that their sword arm, their right arm, was free to face any oncoming stranger or threat. Passing someone on your left meant your weapon hand was between you and them. It was a defensive posture built into the geometry of travel. This left-side custom was widespread enough that in 1300, Pope Boniface VIII formally instructed pilgrims traveling to Rome to keep to the left. It is one of the earliest recorded traffic rules in history. For centuries, the left-side default held across most of Europe. Then came two forces that changed everything: Napoleon Bonaparte and the horse-drawn freight wagon. The freight wagon changed the equation in an unexpected way. Large freight wagons, pulled by teams of horses, were driven not from an elevated seat at the front, but from the back of the left, most horse in the team, the position that gave the driver the best control of the animals with a whip held in the right hand. A driver sitting on the left rear horse, holding a whip in his right hand, naturally wanted to pass oncoming wagons on their left, so he could see the clearance between the wheels on his right side. Passing on the left meant traveling on the right side of the road. This practical shift was already underway in parts of France and the American colonies in the late 18th century. But it was Napoleon who turned a regional habit into a continental system. Napoleon was left-handed. He had always attacked from the right. Charging to the right side of the road meant his sword arm faced the enemy. When he marched his armies across Europe, they marched on the right. And as his empire expanded to cover most of the continent, the right-hand rule followed. Prussia, Poland, Spain, the territories of the Holy Roman Empire. Wherever Napoleon's armies went, right-hand traffic followed. The countries that resisted Napoleon, Britain, Portugal, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, largely kept their left-hand custom. And when the British Empire spread across the world, it carried left-hand traffic with it. India, Australia, South Africa, Hong Kong, Kenya, left side. France, Germany, Italy, the United States, right side. The global split we live with today is, to a remarkable degree, a map of Napoleonic conquest and British imperial reach. The United States is an interesting exception that proves the rule. The American colonies were British, which meant they inherited left-side driving. But after independence, the new republic wanted to distinguish itself from Britain in every possible way, including, apparently, which side of the road to drive on. The freight wagon culture was already pushing toward right-side driving, and the post-independence mood made the switch easy. By the early 19th century, the United States had settled firmly on the right. When American automobile culture spread across the world in the 20th century, along with American roads, American cars with left-hand steering wheels designed for right-side driving, and American road-building infrastructure, it reinforced the right-side majority even further. By the mid-20th century, the global picture had largely stabilized. Most of continental Europe drove on the right. Most of the British Empire's former territories drove on the left. But there were awkward anomalies. Sweden, despite being a neutral country that had never been conquered by Napoleon, had maintained left-side driving. This was increasingly strange in a country whose roads connected directly to right-side driving Norway, Denmark, and Finland. Swedish cars had their steering wheels on the left, designed for right-side traffic. But the Swedes drove on the left. Head-on collisions near border crossings were a serious problem. The Swedish government debated a switch for decades. Public opinion was strongly against it. In a referendum held in 1955, 83% of Swedes voted to keep driving on the left. The government switched anyway. On September 3, 1967, a date the Swedes called Dagen H, standing for Dagen H, the day of right-hand traffic, every vehicle in Sweden came to a stop at 4:50 in the morning. For the next 10 minutes, the entire country sat still. Then, simultaneously, every driver moved to the right side of the road and continued. The result was not chaos. Traffic was so light in those first hours, everyone had been warned to stay home, that the day passed remarkably smoothly. The accident rate in the weeks after the switch actually dropped because everyone was driving with extreme caution. Sweden's Dagen H is now studied in traffic engineering and public policy courses as one of the most successful mass behavioral changes in modern history. Sweden was not the last country to switch. In 1978, Iceland moved from left to right. In 2009, Samoa switched from right to left, making it one of the very few countries to have ever moved in that direction, primarily to align with Australia and New Zealand, its main trading partners, and to make it easier for the Samoan diaspora working in those countries to send home second-hand right-hand drive cars. Today, the countries that still drive on the left are mostly former British territories: the United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, India, Japan, South Africa, Kenya, and a handful of others. Japan is an interesting case. It was never part of the British Empire, but British engineers built Japan's first railways in the 1870s and established left-side conventions that persist today. The side of the road you drive on feels like a neutral technical standard. It is not. It is the residue of medieval sword-fighting customs, Napoleonic military logistics, British imperial expansion, the preferences of freight wagon drivers in 18th century France, and the particular politics of post-independence America. Countries that were never conquered by Napoleon drive on the left. Countries that were part of the British Empire mostly drive on the left too, unless they had strong reasons to align with a right-driving neighbor. The rule you follow every time you get in a car was set by forces that had nothing to do with road safety, traffic flow, or any rational analysis of which side is better. There is no evidence that driving on one side is safer than the other. The split is entirely historical. The next time you sit in the driver's seat, you are inheriting a decision made centuries ago by someone on horseback with a sword, refined by Napoleon's left-handedness, spread by British colonial administrators, and locked in place by the inertia of a world that found it easier to keep the existing system than to coordinate a change. Somewhere a Swedish traffic engineer is still proud that Dagen H worked, and somewhere a Samoan family is shipping a right-hand drive car across the Pacific to relatives in Auckland. Because in 2009, a government decided that the convenience of the present mattered more than the habit of the past. Which raises a familiar question. The systems we live inside always feel like facts. They feel neutral, inevitable, rational. But almost none of them are. They are the accumulated decisions of people who are long dead, made for reasons that made sense at the time, and inherited by everyone who came after without ever being asked. The road is just the most obvious example.